Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Last week, Delta Force Hawk Ops went into its open alpha state, which means that if you watched a live stream on Twitch or somebody was able to give you a key, you could access the game and play it as much as you wanted. And it's got FPS fans alike in a little bit of an uproar and kind of confused where they sit with the game. Thankfully, I was able to secure a key thanks to someone within my community. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, I really haven't had this much fun with an alpha game in quite some time. There are positives, there are negatives, and we're gonna discuss everything today. At any point throughout the video you like what you see, then consider hitting that like and sub button for more content like this. This video is also brought to you by Level Up Apparel. Use code LVLUP10, that's Level Up 10, for 10% off any order over $20. Tap into the mosh pit, socials down below. Okay, let's get into it. Now, if you've been living under a rock and you don't necessarily know what Delta Force Hawk Ops is, it has been a long-awaited installment in a pretty long list of Delta Force titled games, with the most notorious being Delta Force Black Hawk Down. But I feel like I was able to nail down a pretty good one-sentence explanation of what Delta Force Hawk Ops is, and it's in the title of this video. Delta Force Hawk Ops is the Battlefield 2042 that we deserved. And you're probably gonna sit there and think, well, it's a free-to-play Chinese Tencent fucking Battlefield 2042 clone. Now, if you want to hate on Tencent for their kind of dicey history with games and streaming platforms and what have you, you go right ahead. But as always, there are pros, there are cons, and we're gonna go ahead and just discuss everything, and I'll give you my thoughts. To boot, let's talk about the UI. The UI is one of the most familiar looking things on the planet, and I just cannot seem to place my finger on what it reminds me of. No, in all seriousness, the UI almost looks exactly like Battlefield 2042's, and I don't know if it's just because they elected to use almost the same exact color scheme as Battlefield 2042, but it is pretty goddamn similar. From a design perspective, it's very cohesive, it's easy to read and manage. On the UX side of the house, it's intuitive, it's cohesive, and it reads very well. Now, it does have a little bit of a mobile game element to it, but I can tell you right now that that really doesn't take away from anything. It may add a little bit of cheapness to the overall feel of the UI, but it's not gonna make me just not play the game. And there's also a lot of simplicity behind some of the UI elements that you'll find within this game, such as the minimap, the HUD, the ammo counters. There's a lot of simplicity here that works very well. And again, it ties everything together and doesn't make everything look like a fucking eyesore. Now let's go ahead and transition over to the gameplay side of the house. To start off, Rip, you have two maps, one being a recreation of a map from one of the original Delta Force games, and another one being a quote-unquote original map. And I say quote-unquote original because, like Big Fry pointed out in his video, there's a map in this game that looks almost similar to another map that is in Battlefield 2042. Now, if you haven't been able to play the game yet, I recommend getting your hands on a key, because the amount of weaponry that you're exposed to is, when compared to other games who have had tests like these before, leaps and bounds above its competitors. You can also modify and calibrate your weaponry in a very similar fashion to Modern Warfare 22, but whenever you start calibrating your attachments, it'll show you in real time what your buffs and nerfs are. Then you can take that weapon into the shooting range, test it out, and then stack bodies. Now, moving away from the weaponry for a little bit and kind of focusing on the operator side of the house. This is a hot topic for a lot of people, and a lot of people are writing off this game simply because of how the operators are structured, but let me go ahead and put some minds at ease, or it may even just cause you to say, fuck this game, I'm not playing it. You have access to 5 or 6 different operators that act like a hybrid between a class system and specialist. Some weapons can be interchanged between the operators, but some are specific to their own class. You won't see a medic carrying a rocket launcher, but they can carry ammo boxes. No matter what, the classes will always have 2 or 3 or 4 abilities or perks that will remain unique to whatever op you choose. And yes, they do have some sort of ability type system. I play as a medic quite a bit in this game, and his ability is that you can just kind of run around and shoot your teammates with medical bullets. The support has this like throwable EMP jammer thing. There's also a female operator in the game that has a bow and arrow that has like a radar dart attached to it, or there's like electrical darts that you can use as well. So yeah, it definitely carries the vibe of a hero shooter just a little bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And I feel like a lot of people are gonna be surprised going into this game that the hero shooter elements are really toned down. The matches in this game last a good while as well. One game averaging around 20 to 25 minutes in length, but this of course will change once the game comes out and we get large scale and small scale modes into Delta Force. If you're wondering what the gunplay feels like, allow me to paint you a little bit of a picture here. Take the recoil system from Modern Warfare 2 and mix it with the hitboxes and damage modifiers from Battlefield 3 and or World War 3. Center mass and headshots will deal out the most damage, while extremity shots are just there for compound damage. Gunplay is just as important as movement in my eyes, and to be honest, the movement in this game is extremely solid. It's not too fast, it's not too slow, and if I had to make a comparison here, the pacing is is very similar to a game like Battlefield 3, which is why I really enjoy this title for what it is. But I do have a few complaints here. One of the most noticeable cons that everyone seems to be talking about on Twitter is the bots that are in the lobby. I don't know if it's a tongue-in-cheek joke that these guys are trying to pull, but they have randomly generated names with TTV attached to them, and those are the bots that are in the lobby. You can tell that these guys are bots because of how horrible they fucking are whenever they're on your team, but somehow manage to be super cracked when they're on the enemy team. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense why the bots are there, and if they're gonna be bots, just have them labeled as bot. A lot of people seem to be really upset by it. I'm not really upset nor happy about it. I'm kind of just in the middle with it. It doesn't really make a shit difference to me. Another major con that I also want to point out is the fact that on the Battlefield 2042 lookalike map, once you get up into the mountain, you can actually spawn vehicles up there. I absolutely cannot stand that shit, and it just seems like this map is tailored 100% towards the attackers and not so much for the defenders. I'm sure I'm gonna get a fair amount of people saying, oh, it's just because you're trash at the goddamn game. And you know what? No, I'm not gonna accept the fact that you think I'm bad just because a map is one-sided. I get that's kind of the point of the game mode that they have selected to be put in this alpha. I get it. You gotta let somebody win the game at some point, and it's not entirely impossible to win as a defender either, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that if you have to play defense on this map, you either have to have a full 4-stack with you, or you just gotta count yourself out of the goddamn game super early. And it doesn't make it any better when they can bring tanks and BTRs into a little tiny ass cave and just sit at the entrance of either side and just pepper your ass as soon as you spawn in or come anywhere near that area to defend it. Again, it's not entirely impossible to win on that map as a defense team, but good God almighty, it'll make you lose some fucking hair if you haven't already. And I'm bald, so who gives a shit, right? The server stability was another thing that a lot of people had issues with, including myself. I would say the first 3 days of the alpha test were the absolute worst for server stability. You would go from shooting somebody to just seeing them hop around the map, and then you would just die randomly. Again, it's an alpha test where server issues are bound to happen, so I'm not gonna beat them over the head for it, but it is a con that we have to talk about. Now, this next con I want to talk about, this is something that is tailored specifically towards me. This isn't anything wrong with the game itself. This is just me and my taste. That extraction mode that they have, I'm not touching that shit ever again. It feels like they tried to take Arena Breakout and mix it with DMZ from Call of Duty, and it is a horrific experience, at least on my side of the house. But I'm also not really a huge fan of extraction games. I don't see the mass appeal in them. There are very few games that I enjoy within that genre, but for the most part, I can't fucking stand it. And this extraction mode, unfortunately, just does not do it for me. As a little side note here, I don't know if you guys noticed this at all. There's a compass up at the top of the screen in this DMZ-esque mode, but not in the standard PvP mode. For whatever reason, they thought that keeping it in one mode and not the other was a great idea. Why? Now, have I went back into the mode, tried to play it and have some fun with it? Of course I have. And out of the 4 or 5 games I played in that extraction mode, I didn't really have fun in any of them. Again, a lot of people are gonna chalk it up to being a fucking skill issue. But hey, let me let you in on a little secret right here. It's different strokes for different folks, brother. And besides, with Arena Breakout releasing into early access the day after this video comes out, who's really gonna invest a lot of time into this mode? I don't know. I feel like they could have done something better with this alpha, or even with this game in general, instead of worrying about putting this mode into the game that's going to get outshined by its competitor. I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. So overall, not a fan of the extraction mode. I do have friends that love that mode, however, and I see them playing it more than the multiplayer itself, so hey, more power to them. I'm happy for them. But outside of the pros and cons here, I want to talk about something that really hasn't been addressed yet, but I feel like needs to be talked about more, and that is the possible microtransactions coming into the game and the fact that people are bitching about them before we even know what they are. Now, it's already been confirmed that the original Black Hawk Down campaign is being remastered on the latest technology within Unreal Engine 5 and being released for Delta Force Hawk Ops. However, we're not 100% sure if it's going to be a paid for DLC. And if it is, you know what? Awesome. Cool. Great. As long as it keeps the PvP free to play like people are wanting, what's the damage? People are speculating about price, saying that it's $40, $50, $60. There's nothing been confirmed about that yet, so I don't know why people are saying it. If the campaign itself is $20 or $30, I will not mind dropping the money to buy it. Because you have to think, for a game like this to remain free to play, like truly free to play like it is right now, you have to make some sacrifices somewhere. And if you kind of want a similar comparison here, we can compare this to Halo Infinite. Except Halo Infinite didn't really remaster remaster a campaign, they just released it separately and charged $60 fucking for it, which, hey, as much as I love Halo, I'm not gonna spend $60 on a campaign. Now, if it were 20 or 30, absolutely, but 60, I'm pushing it at that point. But yeah, people are very upset by the fact that the campaign may cost you 20 or 30 bucks, maybe 40 bucks. Again, if you want the game to remain free to play, you gotta make some sacrifices somewhere. And that point also transitions into what type of paid content we're gonna see in a battle pass coming into Delta Force Hawk Ops. Just think about it like this if you're really upset about it. A free-to-play game is free to play up until you decide it's no longer free to play. And if it's not an uproar about the battle pass or the fact that the campaign, again, may cost money, it's just the people saying that this game is gonna die like World War III did, or it's gonna be in a shitty state like Battlefield 2042 was. Just ways that people can cope because they don't like how the game is. And guys, I have one small suggestion, just one very small suggestion. If you don't mind listening to me for another 2 seconds, don't play the fucking game if you know you're not gonna like it. I had a post about Delta Force Hawk Ops kind of blow up on Twitter. It reached like 40k views and however many impressions that equals out to. And the comment section was filled with, "This game's gonna die, it's a dead game." And then there was a few sprinkles of, "Hey, you know these guys are selling your data, right? This game is a data miner." First off, I have a lot of shit to say about the whole data mining shit, but I'm just gonna chalk it up to, if you've used the internet for more than 5 seconds, congratulations, your data's already been sold. Well, I don't want China touching it. Okay, so your federal government already has. So what? But again, where a lot of the other free-to-play titles that were in this same realm kind of just shit the bed is due to poor management on the publishing side. Now, I get it, Tencent hasn't had the best reputation when it comes to publishing games or upholding the integrity of the sites that they publish, but that's just because the front-facing product was already dog shit to begin with. This is an entirely different story that I think we can just kind of take an alternative route with. And my point still 100% stands. This game is the Battlefield 2042 that EA DICE could not fucking give us. And we've already heard all of the excuses come out of EA DICE as to why Battlefield 2042 was a colossal failure. To me, it doesn't matter. The fact that we have a game right now that you do not have to front money for is doing it better than a game that had probably way more money put into it that you had to pay for to fucking play is mind-blowing to me. And the fact that you can be mad at that it just proves to me that gamers are becoming more and more miserable. You release a free game, it's gonna be dead in 6 months. Who fucking cares? Don't play it, and it has a battle pass. Oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. A game costs 60 or 70 bucks. Don't want to play that shit because it's 60 or 70 bucks. This industry is starting to become less and less about choosing a game you want to play and more so about choosing a struggle that you want to bitch about. Some of you guys out there who have watched my channel before or are longtime supporters of my channel may call me a hypocrite for saying that, but listen, man, people change. And I think Delta Force Hawk Ops is going to be a fantastic game. Have you guys had the chance to play Delta Force Hawk Ops? And if so, what do you guys think about it? Let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're there, go ahead and hit that like button, that sub button, and smash that notification bell for more content like this. And as always, my name is Redbeard Mortis. Speak loud, speak the truth, and I will see you in the next one.